Welcome back to the SuperCoach Hub BBL podcast. You know who I am. I've been fucking ditched again today. Largs has ditched me. Clary Oliver's ditched me. But we've got someone who is here to impress, the gun himself. He's got an absolute Mickey Mouse of a first name. We all know all Nathans are absolute legends. Guns, how are you, mate?
Yeah, look pretty good. It's been quite a season of Big Bash so far, hasn't it? It's been all over the place, but yeah, can't wait to get into the final third of the season. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been interesting, so to speak, so far. How's your team going? How'd you go last round?
We're doing okay. I would have scored in and around 650 last round.
Yep.
Moved up into the top 500. So
Very nice.
we're pushing. There's a few people around in the top 100, top 150. I know pretty well, and I would like to get ahead of them, but overall, pretty happy with how it's gone so far.
Very nice, mate. Well, for anyone that cares or just wants to see me do badly, I only scored a 470, so it was disgusting and dropped back to 342. So not the best, not the worst. And we will not be going anywhere without shouting out Joshy and Largs' rank. So Joshy's rank, he's finally moved into the top 1K. He's 959. And Largs, literally, I don't think he's moved that much, which is a pretty positive experience considering last round's score for everyone. He's still at 537. So really good platform just to jump into, as you alluded to, the last third of the season. Mate, who are you targeting this week? Do you already have Thunder players?
I've only got the one. I've only got Wes Agar so far.
Yep.
Um, and I'm probably pretty happy with that because they're not, although they're doing okay on the season for Big Bash, they're not that great for Supercoach, right? So there's only maybe three or four that I'd remotely consider this round. And the main guys, probably, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but David Warner's pretty hard to ignore.
Yep.
In form, back-to-back good scores, opening the batting, and it's David Warner. So he's got a massive ceiling on him because of the class and the pedigree he's got. So he's definitely in my considerations. And then the other one, I was surprised to see he was the most traded player this week, but Chris Green.
Yep. Yep.
Like I understand his average is over 60. I just thought that he hadn't really been super coach relevant in the past, and that might be, a mark against him for the double. But like currently I've got him and Warner in this round. I'm going to stay at three for now. I don't think a fourth is justifiable considering how much their lineup will change from last game to this game. But there's a few factors that could change that.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Is it because you don't rate Thunder players as Supercoach options, or are you, I guess, alluding to the weather on the Wednesday, which involves Hobart and the Thunder's second game, which our resident weatherman, the Gerbs, I don't know if you've seen him out and about on the Twitter sphere, mate, but he's just picked up the slack of our resident weatherman and he's just pumping out content, which has been perfect. But Jesus Christ, that fucking scares me. Honestly, the last thing you want, bring in double players and they only play a single.
Yeah, it's not ideal, and that's part of why I'm only staying at three.
Yep.
I would like to mention that the rain is meant to be most likely in the morning on that Wednesday, so there is a chance that we still get a full game in the evening. And saying that even if there is rain, it's set to be pretty light, like less than 1 millimeter. So will it be enough to halt proceedings? Maybe, maybe not. But um, I'm still going down the conservative method because I've already got three Hurricanes players in, and I've got three Thunder players in. That's half of my 11 that might not play.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
so I'm trying to cap that. But also, like they've only really had one player or two players do well in each game. Like they haven't been reliant on one player who's consistently done well. They've shared it around a fair bit. Um, and I personally think it could be someone like Ollie Davies' turn to
Yep.
stand up. Because we've had Rutherford, we've had Warner, we've had Bancroft before he got injured, and I'm pretty sure, like Jason saying, Sam Billings, they've all had a knock of substance to save their team, but we haven't seen one yet from Davies, and my gut says that we'll be getting one from him this round.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see. I can't. I tend to agree with you, but I think I'm a little bit more optimistic. So last week I picked up Wes Agar for his wonderful four. That was fantastic. Fuck you, Wes. And also Chris Green. And obviously Perth isn't a. It's not a spinning pitch, so to speak, but I guess the thought process behind Green was I knew the double was coming up, and to me personally, and other people may disagree with this opinion, he's not really a spinner. He gets the bounce from his height. He can hold the stick well. Doesn't turn a ball. Like I don't think I've ever seen him turn a ball. Much like Agar, anyone that knows me, they know my opinion on that absolute peasant. Talking about Ashton, but it's the bounce in Perth. And at one stage he had 3 for 6, and then I think he finished with 3 for 20 or something against a quality outfit in Perth over there, and he did exceptionally well. Now, yes, that was fantastic, but I don't know if, as you said, if I want so many Thunder players. Like at the moment, Warner is a lock to come in, but that's about it. And like, I want to get your opinion on Lockie Ferguson. What's your thoughts on him? Because even with an 8 that he scored last game, he's still got an average of 43. So he can
Yeah.
produce decent numbers.
And he was pumping out an early 60s average before back-to-back quiet games. So he's gone 10 and 8, and it's led to him having, I think, one of the highest break evens in the comp going into this round. So, and he's
Mm,
only won 35K or something around there. So he's
yeah,
pretty cheap. Um, Also, the Gabba's a pretty pacey deck. So you would think that he would perform well on that. But then again, Optus was too when he got 8. So there's some question marks around that. But he's a quality bowler. That's one thing in his favour. And
yeah.
if he's had a couple of dry games, odds are he's not going to go 4 in a row with dry games. So I imagine he probably bounces back in at least one of these games this round.
That's why I'm very, very tentative on overlooking him. I like if playing devil's advocate, if there is some weather around for Wednesday and they don't get on, the only players you would want to be bringing in is literally the openers and opening bowlers, in my opinion. Am I wrong there?
I don't think so. I mean, you do have the luxury of there being one game being played first. So if you
Yep.
just treat them as though, you know, the Hurricanes and the Strikers have a bye and it's a 3 game round. If you look at it from that perspective, then you say, right, okay, who are the best single game targets? Does, for example, Lockie Ferguson fit in one of your best single game targets with an 80 break even? That's up to you at 135K. Now, obviously, there's a bit of a catch there where there's a chance that he plays a second game.
Yep.
Um, and that's something you take into account. But if you approach it pessimistically and say that they only play one game and the Hurricanes essentially aren't playing this round along with the Strikers, then it sort of changes your perspective on how you approach your trades. And that's where I landed at, you know, only trading in 2 Thunder players this round on top of Wes Agar, who I owned. It is
Yep.
4, as you mentioned. Yeah.
All right. So say you don't own any Thunder players. You're absolutely scat of them. You've got none. Give me your top 3 trade-ins.
I mean, I think Chris Green's number one. I think Chris Green's number one because he's batting in the top 7 and he's in good bowling form. There's a game at program this round. If it's on, it'll be great for his scoring, and he averages well against Brisbane anyway, and at the Gabba, so it
Yeah.
should be a good score. I would be shocked if he goes under 100 this round, if
Yeah.
both games are played in full. So Chris Green for me, number one. Then number 2 would have to be David Warner. I mean, the form he's been in and everything we've spoken about already makes me believe that Warner's the way to go. And then number three, well, take your pick. Wes Agar, Lockie Ferguson. Wes has been in better form, but Lockie's probably the better bowler. So
Yep,
it's
100%
more
agree.
of, uh, I'd probably go Lockie Ferguson over Wes. I'd probably back the quality rather than the form, just because I think Lockie's due.
What if you're shopping in the reject aisle and your team looks good, but you've gone down the pristine section, you've picked up Warner, you've bought, I say, a Ferguson or a Green or an Agar, and now we're at the back of the store and we've moved a few things over and we've got all the produce at the back with a little bit of mold on it. But if you get home quickly and you tuck into it, should be right. Is there any love for a Rutherford or a Gilks?
There is. There's a few guys in that range for the Thunder. Rutherford's one that I know we've spoken about a fair bit on SuperCoach Guns podcast and in the Devil's Advocate article for Honeyball. We've
Yep.
sprung him a fair bit because there's the theory, and it originated from David Miller back in the day, where it doesn't matter how bad you are as an international, you're going to have an innings of substance at some point.
Yes.
Like David Miller, he fell all the way to basement price, but he had a 95 or 48 just randomly, right? Andre Fletcher, he had an 88, not out, even though he was one of the worst imports of all time. And
Absolutely.
it's just happened with Finn Allen. He had three shocking games where he couldn't get out of the first over, and then he's gone back to back 50s and above the 200 strike rate. Even Sherfane Rutherford's kind of just had that game where he just won it for the Thunder. So that theory really does hold true. And it wouldn't shock me if Rutherford was to have a game of substance. However, he is batting six, and that is a bit of a caveat. You wouldn't start him, that's for sure. He'd be a bench loop. Jilks, yeah, I could get around it, but like we've fallen for this trap probably three or four times in the
Yes.
last 5 years. We sort of know where he's at now. He's going to be a 120 strike rate, and you're hoping he makes it to 20, and you're hoping he makes it to 50 to get a half decent score out of him. So I think I think that's just one I'm going to let go. And then
Yeah.
there's a couple of bowlers and a young all-rounder by the name of Dan Christian who might get a go tonight. I've heard a little bit he might get a go, and if he does, he's been in very good form in first grade for University of New South Wales. So we know the class of him. You never know. He might be washed, but he can't do worse than what he's priced at 58,500.
If he gets a game for the Thunder, that absolutely epitomizes everything that's fucking wrong with this league. There is no way that you're bringing in old mate, 63 years old Dan Christian with more grey hair on his head than literally a 35-year-old Labrador dog. No way. No way. They've got to have some kid.
Winners win. Winners win.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he is. Yeah, he is a born winner. I just want to read you out, and I know obviously it wasn't a conventional lineup for the Thunder because Bancroft and Sams basically took each other back to the Shadow Realm. I mean, that was a terrible incident, but and stiff if you brought them in last week, like that's just freak accident. You got Blake Nicataris, who I think plays one game out of the double.
Yeah.
David Warner, who plays two. Gilks at three.
Yeah.
Ollie Davies at four. Sam Billings at five. Rutherford at six. Chris Green at seven. Are there any names there that stand out to you for their price?
I mean, if Gilks, I don't even know how to say his name, but if he's batting at three, I understand. I've just said let him go, but he's a keeper. He's a keeper bat. Like that positioning is gold in such a dreadful position this year.
Yep.
So you could get away with it. Like I've gone away with Sam Harper for 4 rounds this year
Yeah.
as my starting keeper, and it hasn't hurt me one bit. which says a
Yep.
lot about that position, right? Um, so you could get away with it, but gee, that's grim. The one thing I will say is that unless for some random reason, well, not random reason, unless for some reason they want an actual sick bowler that's not Sherfane Rutherford, like there's a path where they move Davies to 3, Billings to 4, Rutherford to 5, and they do put Dan Christian at 6. There is a path for that to
Did
happen.
Did you see Rutherford's over?
It was not good. It was not good.
It was
But yeah,
absolutely fucking deplorable.
it was bad. It was very bad. But they need a
No, no,
sick
no, it
bowler.
wasn't bad. No, there's bad, then there's shit, and then there's fucking terrible, and he was below fucking terrible.
Yeah, he got spanked. And probably should have deserved more, to be honest. 22
Yeah,
wasn't enough, but
yeah, no, he was lucky to get away with what he did.
yeah. But no, I think they need a sick bowler because that's one of their main. Now that they've lost Sands as well, like
Yep.
you're putting a lot of trust into a few guys that are border fringe members of your squad, yet alone your team, right? So I do think there's a genuine path where one of Nikitaris or Jilks doesn't actually get named, uh,
Yep.
to allow a, a certain 41-year-old all-rounder to be a sick bowler and a sick batsman. And that's where sort of the appeal comes in at that price.
So and I think it's fairly, like, we wouldn't be wrong in saying, if we're talking about the bowling options, Ferguson, Agar, and Green are all locks to bowl for. That's
Mm.
so 12 overs. Then Tom Andrews looks like he's going to bowl 4 if selected, which is 16. Who, if they don't bring another bowler in, who bowls 4?
Well, so that's the thing. I think to replace Daniel Sands, I think they'll bring in Hugh Weebgen, the guy that hit the 6 off Berendorf in the second last over to make that chase easy. He bowls a bit of right arm off spin though. So I think that final 4 overs will be a mix of him and, if they name him, Daniel Christian. Otherwise, I think it's Green at 7 and they're going to pick someone like Toby Gray, a leg spinner.
Yep.
Um, or they go down to Nathan McAndrew or Liam Hatcher, which is again another situation where they need a sick bowler in case that doesn't work out in game.
So you
Um,
don't think Rutherford bowls at all?
I think he's one and done. I think he's one and done.
Yep. Fair call. Fair call. So if you're if you're like me and you're I guess shopping in that, moldy back of the fridge type selection area, do you go Shafane at 6 with a chance of bowling, or if Gilks is named at 3, do you just go him?
Well, see, in my eyes, I'd probably go neither, and I'd go Ollie Davies. I mean, he's 62,000. As I mentioned before, he hasn't had an innings of substance yet. And I feel like, I mean, just personal opinion, he is due and he's too good to be kept this quiet. Um, 62,000 for him, he's batting in the top 4. It's a solid enough role, particularly when you have suspect top order like Nikitaris and Gilks ahead of him.
Yeah.
Like, they can be at times walking wickets, and he could be in the power play. So I I if I was looking for a budget option, he would be my number one of the lot. And then number 2 would be Tom Andrews because I don't think he'll go very low, but I just don't think he'll go very high either. I think he's a pretty much a walking 40 points.
Yeah, it's not that I can understand. I understand that. Um, yeah, no, interesting. Because like normally when you see a double game week coming up, you think perfect. I've just like I want 5 to 7 of these players. But when you look at the Thunder lineup, you struggle to find those 5 to 7 players that you want. Like
Mm.
obviously you've got to take 2 out because Sam's. I don't think anyone would want to go into a Thunder double game week without Sam's. Bancroft, even though he genuinely hates his life when he has to open the batting with Warner. Like, I don't know if you've seen that, but Jesus Christ, like, that's just playing happy families. Those two absolutely detest one another. And there's not much after that, like if you've loaded up before it. So you said you're only bringing in two Thunder players. That's correct, yeah?
Yeah, I'm capping out at 3 Thunders. Yeah.
Yep. So who's your last trade in?
I'm a bit late to the party, but I'm going for Finn Allen. I
Yep.
mean, massive negative break even. I was pretty close to trading him in last week, and then I backed
Yep.
out to try and sort of just overall team balance. I needed a bowler more than I needed a batsman, so I just went down that avenue. Um, but in the end, he went well. I had a bit of FOMO watching him, so I figured let's cure that FOMO and bring him in, and he's gonna make a buttload of cash, right? And I feel like he's one of these Alex Hale style players that once they go on a
Yes.
run, uh, there's a bigger scoring coming. I think there's 100 for Finale at some point in this competition, and it makes sense to get on now at 115 ish in my eyes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I mean, who was the last import they had at the top of the innings? Though,
Keaton Jennings.
yeah, well, he to be like I respect him. He's a very I guess team first kind of fella because I think I read that he was happy to move down the order. He was happy to sit out innings, whatever it was for team balance. Where a couple of seasons ago, you literally had this Voldemort looking motherfucker in Adam Leith, and he was just absolute dog shit.
And you
And
know what? Even he
oh,
had an innings as well. I think he got a 50 at some point in the
yeah,
season
well,
too.
that would have been after I ditched him. So as far as I'm concerned, he can still get fucked, mate. And once he gets there, he can fuck off even further. Um, who are you going to VC?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because there's no real standout all rounder now that Sam's is out, and
Yep.
you know I don't trust Chris Green enough to
No.
give him a vice captain. So I'm concluding that I'm going to go with the guy that's got 7 wickets in 3 games. I'm going with Zaga. He bowls death. He's got a solid role. I couldn't judge anyone for going David Warner either.
Yep.
Um, and it might change. Like if the Thunder bat first, it might be David Warner, and if the Thunder bowl first, it might be Wes Agar. So maybe that's the way I approach it rather than flat out it is Wes Agar no matter what.
I think if Thunder bat first, it'll be Warner for me.
Yeah.
If they bowl first, I've got absolutely no clue. No clue.
Could go Chris Green potentially. I know I just said I don't trust him, but like if you're batting first, generally you burn more wickets, more likely to get a bit of a go with the bat.
Yep.
Maybe there's a chance he makes a quick 20. And then, defending a total spinners generally take more wickets doing that than what they would um, bowling first. So there is some thought to Chris Green. But yeah, if they're bowling first, I think it's got to be a pace bowler like Lockie Ferguson or where they go.
Yeah. No, I get that. Is there any love for Billings at 5? Any love at all?
Oh, I mean, you could also look at it from this perspective. Again, as I said, Jilks, Nikitaris, they're walking wickets, and Davies have not been in great form. If you want to take it from that angle, then maybe there is a scenario where Billings is in before the seventh, eighth, ninth over, and there's plenty
Yep.
of time for him to make a score. But for me, that's nearly 150K for a keeper that bats at 5. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to let that go, particularly when Jilks for half the price bats higher up, Davies for less than half the price bats a position below, and you've got Nikitaris at 55,000. So there's plenty of options cheaper than him, and at least one of them's going to have to do well this round for the Thunder to actually do anything.
You'd think so. Like they at the start of the season, I was a firm believer that they had the worst list going around. But it looks as if they're slowly turning things around.
Yeah, now those injuries to Bancroft and Sands might be the nail in the coffin. That might have been their last big effort trying to win that game against Perth.
Yeah.
But look, they've got Warner, they've got Ferguson, and they've got Rutherford. Between the three of them, they have match winning ability. across the park. Only problem is that Rutherford and Lockie Ferguson leave pretty soon, and when they're gone, um, I imagine the Thunder will be cooked.
Who comes in for them?
Well, we don't know yet, so they'll be able to sign two international replacements. But and they're going to have to, because otherwise you're looking at a very, very weak team. Like, as
Yeah,
in, all of their
absolutely.
depth will be in their starting lineup, because it is chaos right now for them. Um, so I'd play it by ear. But obviously, you know, Constance is literally in the side and out of the side, because there's only 10 days between now and when the team tours to Sri Lanka. So I'm not really interested in Constance long term. And then
Absolutely not. No.
you've got all sorts of problems with who replaces who.
Yeah, it's a bit of a disaster there, honestly. I think it's a bit of a get in, get out scenario on this double. Get the ones you
Yeah,
want in, or like you, only get the ones that you're confident in that you can cover. Um, if you do need to bench them and you've got other fires you need to put out, but I definitely like have no issue retaining Warner, but after that, like obviously Ferguson plays a double, then he's gone. So you know if you're bringing him in, you got to get rid of him. Do you like Chris Green's perfectly fine to keep, but I think after this double, you want to be cashing Wes Agar out as well. Um, Billings, like he's not going to be 160K for the entire tournament, and it's just like, do you really want to be stuck with S Rutherford on your bench as a do not play afterwards? Like, that's talk about team balance. That's like worst case scenario if you get stuck with them on the bench. Um, but we'll get to some comments now. And Guns, you've got a little bit of I guess, a liking from the Gerbs. He
oh
said,
wow,
Guns is a major upgrade, not going to lie. Good to have him. So, yeah. I don't know
there
if
you go.
Gerbs follows any of your NRL stuff. I know you're huge on that, mate. And that's just a fucking another language to me. So, you must be doing something good there, mate. Um, what do you think of these trades? He's just
There you go.
outside the 1K. Overton, Thornton, O'Neill to Green, Owen, and Spencer Johnson. He's already got Warner and Agar, but the rain worries him on Wednesday. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, if the rain's worrying you on Wednesday, you probably can't go Mitch Owen. Um,
Yep.
Also, um, I'm pretty sure he has scores of 151, 68, and 78 at home at Blunston Arena, or whatever it's called, Ninja Stadium, something stupid.
Ninja. Yes.
Yeah. And I think he has scored, I think he's got an average of 12 points per game outside of home. So I
Yep.
don't think you can go Mitch Owen at NG Stadium, another stupid name. But yeah, as a Owen owner, I'm going to let him. I'm not going to start him this week. I'm going to let
Yep.
him go. Uh, I would prefer. I mean, what's he? What would Mitch Owen even be worth? He was around 150 last round, so let's just go off that. Um, there's guys like Sean Abbott who are coming back on
Yep.
on Thursday, who is 138,000, playing at the MCG, which is a big ground, square of the wicket, which is perfect for his style of bowling and death overs as well. Uh, he's someone I prefer opposed to a Mitch Owen. And then you keep your three Thunder double game players. You're not buying a Hurricanes player who might have a game taken away from them on a Wednesday, and then you've got Spencer Johnson alongside, which is a pretty good trade in too.
Yep. No, I see. I'm with you on that. If Green, that's fine. Spencer Johnson, yeah, but Owen, like, if it's 150K, like we're talking Jai Richardson and Cash, aren't we? No, Jai Richardson's 157. So if you can get Owen, surely you can work out a Jai Richardson trade, or as you said, Sean Abbott.
Yeah, I think from memory, Mitch Owen had a pretty low break even, but I just haven't got his price in front of me. But he was 147 last round. I think he would have gone up with a score of 78. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you just let that one go. And hopefully, he has, for your sake, he has a couple of quiet games before the double.
Lovely, lovely. Global, he's put in Happy New Year, lads, before, and Happy New Year to you, my friend. Does Constas come straight back in? All those people that I saw on Twitter, and they're like, oh, does Constas play the first game of the day? Why the fuck would he?
I mean, I kind of hope he does, but he would. There's no way. Like for starters, we would have had to have known by now. I would have thought
He's
if
not
he
in the
was going to
squad.
play. He's not on the squad, but they would give if they were allowed to play, they would have given exemption out for all the test players to be able to play from tonight.
That's what I
But
would have
we would have found
assumed.
out by now.
Oh, absolutely. But this kid's 19. He's just won the Border Gavaskar Trophy. He's literally terrorized 1.4 billion people and got under every single one of their skins. Let the man go out and party and have a good time. Fuck the big bash.
No, I want all of his super coach points for me for
Oh,
my own selfish reasons.
no, no, it was never going to happen. Never going to happen. Round game two, potentially, but if he wants to get some cricket in before going to Sri Lanka, because you'd assume that he's on that tour now, like he's punched his
Mm.
ticket. But yeah, I, I know there was people hopeful, like in your situation where they already own him. He's on the bench. I think that's just personal bias coming in over just sound logic. Like, can you
Oh,
imagine him and
absolutely.
Travie Head getting on the beers and then he's going to walk out and open the batting? I highly doubt that. Highly
I
doubt that.
mean, there's been many instances of it in the past, but that we're talking 40 or 50 years ago.
Yeah, but now we can't say anything, mate. You should see our hate mail that we get when something slips the tongue. Jesus Christ. Um, Sam says, G'day, thoughts on trading Jai Richardson over Ferguson? Will captain him too if VC fails. Now, this is hard because, like, Ferguson and Warner are the ones that I would not want to bring a single game week player in over. Like, if you can get Ferguson, Richardson, and someone else, then go for it. But, geez, I don't know. I don't know.
The one thing with Jai and Perth fast bowlers as a whole is that they're going to be rotated throughout.
Yeah,
Like it'll be random. You won't be able to plan for it. It'll just happen. So, to be honest, I'm going Ferguson over Jai because at
yeah,
least, although at least you know when he's going to leave, and then once he's left, you can deal with it then.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. James wants to know thoughts on Jilks. If he's listed at 3, I will have some extremely intrusive thoughts about putting him into my side.
I mean, and I think a lot will. Cheap top order batter. He's scored 43 last game, so he must be doing all right. It's just that it's Matthew Jilks, and he's had 2 innings, maybe 3 in the entirety of his Big Bash career. So how can you trust that? You can't. Is the simple answer.
Do you like to loop double game week players?
There's a few guys. Sometimes you with like guys around 90,000 or below, or just guys that I just purely do not trust. I have looped them, like Adam Zampa, round
Yep.
one, put him on the bench, had a look at him, it was crap, didn't loop him in. So,
Does Jilks fall into that category?
yes, yeah,
Yep.
that's Rutherford does, Davies does, Tom Andrews doesn't, but just that's not because he's any better than them. It's just because, as I said before, he's a walking 40 points basically.
Yep. Yep. My dear friend Daryl says Harper is king. I think this is a little bit of a dig at you, mate.
Well, I mean, the dude was what 58 and a half, and he's averaged 30 on the year. It's not great, but it's all right. And they keep a position where, guys like Ben McDermott was asleep until maybe 2 games ago, and even still, he hasn't fully woken up. Um, you've got Josh Inglis, who played 2 games, and now he's out of the Big Bash with a calf injury. You've got Matthew Hurst, his replacement, who hasn't done very well. Philippi's the only one that's actually done something of substance. Ollie Pope's also averaging 30 and only just got wicketkeeper status.
Yeah.
The
That
Heat's wicketkeeper situation's been grim too. Like, we're running out of keepers here.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Um, Blokes asking for a friend. Will the Thunderstack teams fall off the pace due to rain? It depends
Um,
what kind of rain.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the big factor in that is, if someone's got 5 or 6 Thunder players, they're still getting a game. They're just not getting a double game. So they could still have the right 5 or 6 to do well, or do all right at the very least, and it won't impact them. But, you know, I'm not saying that they'd fall behind the pace, but they're certainly not getting ahead with 5 or 6. And then maybe there's a bit of team balance, imbalance that comes back to bite them later on. There could be a
Yeah.
bit of that. So not immediately, no, is probably the best answer I can give.
No, and it's like you've got to have context around it as well. Like if it's rain, are you saying that the Thunder Hurricanes game doesn't go ahead? Or are you saying like is that a 10 over game each? Because in a 10 over game, like you can have Lockie Ferguson pick up three
Mm.
and maybe he doesn't bowl 3 overs because it's a 10 over game. So you don't get the over bonus and Warner could pop at the top of the innings.
Yeah, like,
So it's a lot of context with that one, mate. But I mean, pick the players that you think are going to be quality.
yeah,
Um, Kai brings up a good point, actually. Shout out to Kai Broom. He's always, this man, he overthinks shit like there's no tomorrow. My God, Kai, just message me, mate. We'll work through it together. Don't worry. Ollie Davies could also potentially bowl an over or two of off spin, probably ahead of Rutherford in bowling. Mate, to be honest, I could bowl better than what Rutherford did, and I'd be above him in the pecking order right now.
I mean, yeah, you could have Ollie Davies bowl, but I don't know if you go into a game from a Sydney Thunder perspective. I don't know if you go into a game thinking, all right, Davies is going to bowl some overs here. You don't plan for that. That's not your game
No.
plan. They're going with a sixth bowler. It's either Weebgen and another bowler, or it's Weebgen and they lengthen their batting lineup and go with Dan Christian. Like, there's a very real scenario where he plays. I'm not even saying whether or not he'll do any good. It's just, you know, it's very possible that he plays to balance out their lineup.
Why did Weebgen even play?
Well, I think because they're in Perth, they've only brought over a select amount. Um, and so as a result, you've got Davies, you've got a 14-man squad, right? Which means you have 3 reserves. Davies was in that 14-man squad and he was sick. So he was in the hospital. He was not hospital, he was in the hotel room at Perth, right? And then obviously you've lost 2. And so the remaining 2 players in that squad, um, they were, I believe, Weebgen and Liam Hatcher, and they needed a batsman, so they went and brought Ollie Davies out of the hotel room.
But Weebgen was already in the team, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't in the team, but he was in the squad for that game.
Right. Because I
Yeah.
just looking at it, it's like why is he if he can bowl, why did he not bowl? But that clearly answers it. Um, Logan, oh Logs, we've had some very good digs at each other on X. I really enjoy conversing with you and the banter. Hey lads, thoughts on Murray Wade as an in this week? Looks to have bottomed out. Decent loop. Wicket keeper has the double soon.
I mean, we've spoken about Hurricanes players. Just
Yeah,
copy and paste that probably. Plus, Wade's been in horrible form. If you want a wicket keeper, go get Ben McDermott from the Hurricanes because he's actually got some ceiling on him.
yeah, I agree. And also, if their only game this week could be potentially washed out or rain affected, nah. He's also sent in have the 3 Thunder at the moment in Warner, Agar, and Green. Would you rather buy Ferg as a fourth or get a single game week player like Edwards and Abbott? Or in that position, if you've already got them, you get Ferguson and one of the Sixers boys, or both the Sixers boys.
Well, I'm getting a Sixers fella. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like you can only pick one. You don't need 4. Sean Abbott, Jack Edwards, either of them, take your pick. If we knew Edwards was batting at 3, I'd be trading him in ahead of some Thunder
Yep.
players, to be honest, because essentially he's a double player every week, batting in the top 3 and bowling the overs that he does. So
When
that there would be that element.
when does their squad get released?
Day before, so that'll be out on Wednesday, the Sixers squad. But I suspect Patterson will still be in that squad. It's just whether or
Exactly
not
what I
they
was
dropped
about
him.
to say. As long as KP plays, Edwards is down the order. Simple as
Yeah,
that.
and even still, it's a bat six that bowls four overs. It's still a very good
Yeah.
role.
It's not like a
Um,
Glenn Maxwell bat six doesn't bowl.
Probably no, it's not like that at all. Um, I'd probably go. I mean, I'd still go Sean Abbott. I mean, maybe the bowling role slightly decreases for Edwards with Abbott there. There is a school of thought where that happens. Particularly with I think Jacksonburg got rest last game, but I don't know. I mean, I suppose they could pick all three of them and have Hayden Kerr and Akila Sane, but I doubt that's what they go with. Like
Yeah.
someone's going to miss out, and I imagine it's either Hayden Kerr or Jackson Bird, and they might like the batting of Hayden Kerr more.
They always like to chase, so that makes me inclined to think that Kerr would be in.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, but you've only done two trades here. I'm struggling to see as to why you can't bring Ferg in and Edwards and Abbott.
Well, yeah, I think he's brought in. I imagine he brought in two of the three Thunder players this round, and he's looking to go for either a fourth or one sixer.
Yeah, yeah. No, if that's the case, then they'll probably go Ferguson, Edwards, Abbott in that order.
Yeah.
Um, we've got Ethan Wilson ranked 83rd after 5:45 this week. Nice start, very nice start.
Mm.
Trading Overton, Thornton, and Ollie Pope to Green, Warner, and Philippi. Supercoach Guns brought up Allen. Would you prefer Philippi against Stars or Allen to trade? That's tough.
Well, I mean, they're both in. I mean, Philippi's been consistent this year and consistently averaging late 50s, early 60s. Finn Allen's just gone back to back massive games. Big negative break even. He's also, I think, around 50, 60K cheaper than Philippi. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
leaning
what's
towards
the cash?
Philippi personally.
What's the cash do for you? Like, does
Yeah,
that?
that's a big key point there. I mean, you, you could argue that the cash can be put aside, get rid of some of the crap in your team, get to quite literally maybe what would it be 11, 12, 15 gun players or something like that, 14 or 15 gun players, uh, and then you know then you have bench loops around and all of a sudden you've got this super team. That's what that
Yeah.
sort of cash can do for you because that can take a James Basley to um, an undervalued gun like oh who's it around? Well, Finn Allen.
Yeah.
That's an example of what the 50K can do.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Kai said Constance was drinking beers at the ground at 9 p.m. Yeah, I had no faith that he was going to play both games. Absolutely none. Daz wants to know Bartlett or Nisa. I'm going Bartlett purely because Nisa's coming back off injury.
And Bartlett's been in pretty good form as well. He's a gun bowler.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bartlett for me.
Kai said if Gilks is there game one, but if no Nikitaris, then surely game two Constance potentially comes back in for him. Yeah, the only way that I'm picking Gilks is if Nikitaris is opening because he's going to be the scapegoat as soon as Constance comes back.
Yeah, I mean, I've made my thoughts clear on those two. I don't think I'll be going near either of them, but in that situation, yeah, that's the only way you could pick Jukes.
Perfect.
Yes,
W
but
MacDaddy 1973. Thoughts on trading out Maxwell and or Overton? Right now, Maxie's role is shit. Pure
mm,
shit. Batting
yeah,
six, not bowling, and it's just lucky he fields in hot spots because you can kind of almost bank on 20 points a game from purely fielding. But Overton's fine to flick. And if you've got no striker boys that need to go, I have no issues trading out Maxi at all.
yeah,
Um, is Dan even too old for Dad's army? Um, no,
no,
I as a, Like, I'll be shocked if he plays. Absolutely shocked. Like, that's, yeah. You know.
We've
Um,
got some contrasting views there, which is
I
good.
know you've got a little bit of a love fetish for Dan Christian, don't you?
Oh, it just brings out some nostalgia, seeing Dan Christian back. It's good. I love it. Also, if I could put that nostalgia to a side, like he's still in pretty good nick, and he does fill a very convenient gap for them where they're missing a key all rounder right now, and it would kind of help out with their team if they did have one.
If Dan Christian is listed
Here
at
we go.
6 tonight, and um, they've got 4 bowlers, 5 bowlers named,
Yeah,
how quick are you putting him in your side?
pretty quickly, pretty quickly. He's 58 and a half. He'll be an emergency, obviously,
Yep.
but you know, winners win. He's going to find a way to get involved as well. It's just, it screams one of these situations where he just never really dips away in terms of class. I reckon there's a game. If he plays both games, I reckon he'll creep his way up to maybe a 70, 80 points if he plays both. But yeah, I'm hoping he plays. It just be nice. Be
So what you're
nice.
saying is if DC is listed at 6 with 5 other bowlers, he's an absolute lock.
Yeah, if he's well, I mean, he's not gonna be the fifth bowler outright. That's for sure, right?
You don't
Not at
reckon?
41. Nah, not at 41. Although in saying that, he'd been bowling like 20 overs a game in first grade and batting at 4 or 5.
All
He's
he's got to
clearly still
do
fit
is roll
enough.
the arm over for a minimum of literally what would they need? Not from a super coach perspective, minimum
Two
12
overs
balls.
probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
2 overs. That's right. I think yeah. From if you take Supercoach out of it, he does actually fill a very important role for them.
It's just the
If
age.
it's just the age, otherwise you'd have no problems picking him, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've never really had this instance where we're picking uh, an all rounder coming out of retirement, who's actually still being good form in first grade. Like we've never really had anything like this happen before the super coach, and so I don't really know what to go off here. But just off the top of it, it kind of looks like there's some sort of role there for him. But I could equally see the argument saying that it's bat six and he's a sixth bowler. Like that's not a great recipe for him to do well. But he's Stan Christian. Like he's possibly one of our best T20 players ever in Australia, at least.
Everywhere he goes, as you've alluded to, he wins shit. He just
Yeah,
does. And I'm fairly sure it'd be his 5th club as well.
fifth big patch club.
Like
It's the story's written for him to play tonight. I've got to say.
that's ugh, Jesus. Excluding Thunder players, top 3 trade-ins.
Oh, geez. Okay, Finn Allen's number one.
Yep, I would
Um,
agree.
then I'd have, I mean, Sean Abbott. I've talked about him at length. Um,
Yeah.
and then, I mean, it's a shame, but if we knew that the Thunder were not the Thunder, the Hurricanes were playing, I'd be very tempted by, someone like Ben McDermott. I get he had a quiet game last night, but he's got a massive ceiling on him, and data shows that after the first 4 rounds in the last 4 seasons, he's averaged 58 with the bat.
Yeah,
So
he's popped.
he's gone really big once he gets some of the cobwebs out. So there is that element to it. But let's assume he's not playing. I think number 3 for me, tough, isn't it? I think Jack Edwards. Let's go pretty obvious. At the very worst, he's batting 6, bowling 4. At the very worst, so it's very hard to ignore him.
I would go Allen if Curtis Patterson isn't named, Jack Edwards. If Curtis Patterson is named, it's Sean Abbott and then Jai Richardson.
Mm, yeah,
I
fair
just think
enough.
like Richo, I do not like watching Perth games not owning Jai Richardson. Um, yeah, Tones, good to see you here, mate. He says Pope, Overton, and Darcy short to Allen, Ben Duckett, and Warner. Why are you getting in Duckett?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Why are you getting in Duckett? Like, I understand he's priced quite high. He's had three good scores and two golden ducks. Um, Surely there's cheaper keeper solutions than Ben Duckett because assumably that's why you're buying him because he's a wicket keeper bat because you're not buying him as a pure bat.
No, no. Look, if it's purely for the keeper position, just get Philippi instead.
Yeah, or there's a lot of cheap options there. If you're really brave, as you mentioned before, Jilks, if you see Nikitaris opening, yeah, I can rattle off quite a few of them, but Ben Duckett's
Yeah,
overvalued.
that's interesting. Follow up to Ethan's submission before. He says, RE, Philippi, and Allen, I'm chasing points, not so much cash. However, I can loop Billings and Philippi pending rain and scoring output. So it's either field Billings and Allen or loop Billings and Philippi. Oh, I'm always looping, like loop whenever possible.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way here and say
Yep.
Field, Billings, and Allen. I again, even from a points perspective, Allen's got back-to-back 50s, and Philippi's had some solid games, but yeah, there's been a bit of a break between. You never know what that could do. It could reset some form. It could reset him. He could regress in form. A big break like that could change some things. Not to mention, who's he played at start? It's not a batter-friendly ground. We've seen that a lot this season. Um, so I'm going Billings and Allen personally.
Does it worry you that Philippi literally shits points from how good the bowlers are, though? He seems to always get points from caught behind, stumpings, whatever.
Mm. I mean, yes, that is a concern, but it's like, you know, at this ground there is a possibility for a catch or two for Philippi, but at the same time, you're looking at a lot of shots across the line. It's going to be hit to the square boundaries that you're not looking at very much in the way, or at least unless there's a massive top edge that goes quite literally straight up. I don't I don't see Philippi taking many catches in this one.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Tommy Jack says, "Yeah, if DC is named, I'll be on. It's role dependent for me." I've got one last question for you, Guns, and thank you so much for joining me today. As I said, I got ditched by the other two peanuts, but Dukes, Davies, DC, Rutherford. Give
Yeah,
me 1 to 4.
wonderful. All right. Because there's no concerns about him, his role, everything. I'm going Ollie Davies at number one.
Yep.
Uh, at number two, uh, I'll put Dan Christian in there, but he needs to be named and batting at six.
Yep.
If that's happening, then I'm happy to pick him. No
Yep.
worries. At three, I've got Sherf. Oh no, I don't have Sherfane Rutherford at three, do I? I have Jukes at three. I have
Yep.
Jukes at three. Again, the role's just better. Um, I understand Rutherford at four contradicts a lot of what I've been saying, but the role batting at six is not great. He
Yep.
needs to bat. If he's batting at five, as in, let's say they've dropped Nikitaris and they've just pushed Jukes to opener, they pushed everyone down a spot, and you see Rutherford's batting at five, which probably most likely accommodates Daniel Christian batting or playing even. Rutherford at five is more appealing to me than Jukes as an opener. Is he? Now that I say that out loud, I'm not sure. I'm going to have them
Does
tied. I'm going to have them tied because I can't split them.
so if DC's at 6, you pick him. Is that fair to say?
Think so. I think so. It's just I've got to figure out if um, I value him more than I value. If I value his game, his points twice, or two games of Daniel Christian over one game of Finn Allen. That's a discussion I've got to have with myself this afternoon. Uh, and currently, it's pretty close. I mean, Daniel Christian presumably will bowl 2 overs or so and bat six twice at most. Probably going Finn Allen still. But if you're looking for a really budget option, which I'm not personally, then yeah, Daniel
Does
Christian's my second favourite there.
Does Dan Christian bat higher than Chris Green?
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
Well, I think because he's got some stupid average in first grade of like 80 in his first three games this year. He's actually really in form. He's got, I think, 6 or 7 wickets in 3 games as well. Um, Plus Chris Green, he's already batting very high at number 7. I would have put him as a number 8 usually. I don't consider him an all rounder. He can bat,
Yeah.
but I don't consider him an all rounder. And so the fact that he was at 7 and batting ahead of Daniel Sam surprised me in the first place. Unless we see Daniel Christian batting at 8, I don't see Green batting ahead of him.
Perfect. We've just got 2 more questions from Matty Granger, and then we are absolutely out of here. Matty wants to know thoughts on fading Chris Green with the weather situation.
Hmm. There's certainly logic to it, but the fact that it's a 50% chance that game gets called off, you know, or the 50% chance there's rain for that game, I think is really the way to word it, means that I think you lean towards you're picking him. And if you miss out on the second game, you miss out on the second game, but at least you've got one game and you're going with the attitude of there's upside there for him to play twice.
Yeah, oh, no, I wouldn't want to. He also says, who's the best loop option to replace Salzman? Salzman has the worst looping fixtures going forward. I
Yeah.
genuinely don't know. I have not looked.
Harry Menenti, Adelaide Strikers, bat bowl, 39,500. I don't believe he's even, like, he was a local replacement player, but I think that's over now. So he's just
Yeah.
a non-contracted enough. Uh, so that's perfect for me. I'd be going Harry Menenti as my enough of choice. But then again, I haven't looked at the top of my head long term to see how late they play, but I don't imagine it's all that early, though, in saying that they do have the bye. So maybe that does change
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. No, perfect. Guns, thank you so much for joining me today, mate. Give us a little spiel about what you do in that made up fantasy place of the NRL world.
I'll pretty much copy and paste on how we approach NRL, to be honest. We talk a lot, BBL, sorry. We talk a lot about individual players, sort of their role. Again, role's a big thing still in NRL. The role changes from how often are you involved in the game to how many minutes will you play. So similar sort of terminology there, and approach. And then we drivel out a lot of stuff on social media, or where we'll be uploading YouTube videos, sort of podcasts, but just you know with very similar to this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how we'll be going deeper into the nitty gritties of NRL Supercoach, and that's what we'll be doing pretty soon. We'll be waiting for it to open, and then which will be around Australia Day usually. So there'll be that to look forward to, and yeah, big season coming up.
Perfect, mate. If anyone wants to get stuck into the NRL preseason, where can they find you on social media, mate?
I mean, so on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, it is at Supercoach Guns, and then on Instagram we are at nrl.supercoach.guns. And I mean, for Big Bash stuff, it's supercoach.bbl.guns. So, we've split the accounts for Big Bash and NRL, but then
Yeah.
on Instagram, but then on Twitter or X, we've combined them just to go under one umbrella.
Perfect, mate. As I said, thank you so much. And to everyone that joined today that had questions answered or they just wanted to converse or throw some abuse in the DMs, thank you so much for being here. You can find me on X at Scobey_SC Hub. Make sure you join the Discord as well. I'm 99% sure there's an NRL aspect to the Discord. I don't venture in there because I do not speak that language. But if you are like-minded with guns and you want all the preseason information, go in there, and I'm sure you'll find something. Anything left to add, mate?
I don't believe so. Thanks for having me on, and all the best for the round ahead.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Same to you. And hopefully all our listeners do well, just not as well as me. And make sure,
Perfect.
if you're still watching, actually, if you're still in the chat, make sure you come to the next podcast and make sure you rip into Largs and Joshy for just abandoning me. You know, I have emotions as well, and sometimes they get hurt by assholes like them. So you have a great day, and I'm sure we will see you again soon prior to the next round. Have a good one. Thank you very much, Guns.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Enjoy, everyone.